Welcome to Thriver Talks with Stephanie and Nalie. I'm Nalie.
And I'm Stephanie.
And today is episode 14.
And in today's episode, we're going to talk about our personal journey to fertility.
Because unfortunately, when you undergo treatments for stage 4 cancer, and I mean, even just having that diagnosis on its own, it becomes difficult to even think about starting a family, or sometimes it can affect your fertility depending on the treatments you're on.
Exactly. Like, can you physically have a family? So
can you? Well, how are you even thinking about it?
Absolutely.
What can you do?
All of those questions.
All of that will be answered in today's episode. So without further ado, here's episode 14. Oh boy.
Fertility.
Oh, here
babies.
FYI, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are in Corinth, New York.
Yes, we're in Corinth. We actually took a week out of our busy schedules to come up to Corinth. Is actually in upstate New York. It's kind of a halfway meeting point.
Yeah, we were like, let's meet halfway, and literally it's like halfway between where Steph lives and halfway between where I live in Montreal.
And we had no idea like where we were coming. But
nope. And then when we asked our idol, Chris Carr, New York Best Times seller, we're like, how do you write a book? She was like, I'm like, how do you even find time to write a book? And then she was like, you don't find time.
Make time.
So here we are in the middle of nowhere, making time to write the Thriver's Guide and to cook and to do yoga and meditate and to heal and to record podcasts.
Thriver Talks.
Because we wanted to really, be there for you guys.
And we're never together to record, so it's always hard. We're doing it over the phone, so what better opportunity than to record some content? And with today's topic, fertility is kind of a question that I get often, do you want to have a baby? Can you have a baby? Have you frozen your eggs? Are you fertile? Are you on treatment? So
there should be a rule where, like, as soon as a woman hits 30, you shouldn't be able to ask them, like, so when are you having kids?
I think it's hard for anybody who doesn't have cancer. I know friends who are like in their mid to late 30s who haven't had kids yet, and they feel this pressure, like, oh my God, my time clock is ticking, which.
But maybe, you don't know what's going on in their lives. Maybe a lot of women can't,
Sure.
depending on whatever. It doesn't have to be about cancer. There's so many women that I know as well who are having trouble having kids. And nevertheless, cancer or not, it's an awkward question to face. And, we just finished the holidays and meeting with family and meeting your aunties and your uncles. And then, they see you with your as a couple with me and my boyfriend. And it could be an easy question, so when are you having babies?
But it's probably even more awkward for them because they know your situation.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, sometimes they don't. A lot of people, again, this is the whole point, awareness, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people don't know, hence the topic today. And also a lot of the reasons why we are doing Thriver Talks and writing the Thriver's Guide and advocating as two young women with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer who have been through it. A lot of people this is not an issue for, elder women,
Right.
who are diagnosed, say,
who have had children
or are diagnosed at a later age who don't even think about wanting children anymore.
So I think, so now that I've been on my journey for almost 9 years, it was pretty wild because back then, no one was really talking about fertility.
Of course.
Now I see it coming to light more and people are being more open about talking about it.
Yeah.
Doctors are even sending people to fertility people. But to kind of jump into my own my first experience with fertility was, I have to be honest, as soon as I got the diagnosis that I had cancer, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my God, can I have babies?
Really?
The absolute first thing, because one thing that I always told myself that I wanted to be was a mother. And all my friends told me, you're going to be the best mom. So that was the first thing that came to my mind was, how is this going to affect my ability to have a child? Because I was already going into my 30s when I got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
And nobody, at the time, my surgeon, nobody really talked about options. It was just you're going straight to treatment. And it wasn't until years later, then I was at a new hospital. I remember I was waiting to see my oncologist, and a woman came around taking a survey, like, have you, and she handed it to me in the waiting room, and it's a checklist, like, has anyone ever spoken to you about fertility? Have you frozen your eggs? And I'm like, wait a minute. No.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time that anybody even brought it up to me. And that's when it really kind of, I was really upset, I should say, that nobody even spoke of it.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe part of it was because it's, oh, she's stage 4. We have to save her life. Forget about having babies, you know. But I think now, you know, anything is possible. Even your doctor just told a story of a woman who had MBC and she has twins.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think times are changing. Things are changing. Conversations are being had. So I'll get like more into my fertility journey. But how about you? Like when you were first diagnosed, did they give you options?
Yeah, well, so my story is pretty similar to yours. But when I got diagnosed, initially I was 24.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, like, you were 31.
Yeah. 31.
So 24, I was still partying. It was me and V were like sort of dating, so I wasn't in like a long-term relationship or anything. Let's just say kids wasn't on my mind at that point in my life, but absolutely sometime in the future. And like I've also always dreamed of having a family of my own, and you know, having my own kids and being pregnant. Like it was something that I have always dreamed of, just not at that point in my life. And being completely shocked over a diagnosis, it wasn't the first thing that crossed my mind compared to you. Right. So what happened was I started my blog right away. And thankfully so, because as soon as I launched it, it was prior to even starting chemotherapy. And I remember it was one of my friends who reached out to me, and she saw my blog post, and then she was like, hey babe, are you going to be freezing your eggs?
Wow.
And I was like, what?
Like angel. Like honestly.
Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? What eggs? Which eggs? The eggs in my fridge eggs? What eggs needs to be frozen? I was so innocent back then. And she was like, oh, like I saw you got diagnosed, so I did my own research, like bless her soul. Yes. Anwar, I'll give her a little shout out. My sweet so Anwar. Sweet. And she was like, chemotherapy can affect your fertility. So how am I learning this?
From a friend.
From a friend who was so shocked that I was diagnosed that she went on a forum and read that women were freezing their eggs before starting chemotherapy, that I went to the hospital upon my first appointment to start chemo, and was like, oh, by the way, like I heard that, you know, chemo can, you know, affect my eggs and cause infertility. Like, and then I remember he just picked up his phone, called the reproductive department or center at a different hospital, and like started booking me an appointment. And he's like, okay, we're going to postpone your appointment and I'm going to send you to the reproductive center.
Wait. Okay. So I just have to ask a question. So when you were first diagnosed too, you were stage 2.
Yeah.
So had you not come to him with this information, do you think he was even gonna like bring up fertility?
No, that's the whole point of this story. Was if I didn't, he wouldn't have picked up that phone and made that call. And all it took was that call, and he didn't even mention it to me. So I definitely think that there's a lack of like, I don't know, something in the system where maybe like, you know, when someone's diagnosed, they could, I'm not saying it's up to my oncologist, maybe like I could
but
be
it
brought
should be
to
like referred to a fertility specialist. Like that should be protocol.
Especially if you're a young woman. And I don't think maybe, and I get it, you know, they say we're rare, but I think more so these days we're a lot more than people think. I think if you see me and you see I'm this young, vibrant woman, I may potentially, you know, want to have
a family.
So I think his goal as an oncologist was like, let's get this cancer out of you ASAP. And I'm so grateful, because at the end of the day, his intention was to save my life.
Absolutely.
So I get it, but there is a little gap there that could be fixed. So I didn't know, and I postponed my first round of chemo, and because time was like, you know, like they didn't want to delay it too long. I remember man, this feels like an eternity ago, so I'm like only reflecting now as we're recording this podcast, but there were certain options. Like I think if I had a longer time, I could have like injected myself to get my ovaries or something.
Trying to like more eggs,
Exactly, or more fertile or whatever. So I had to opt with the only option I could, which was the one that could be done only in a short amount of time. And it was a whole like procedure. I remember my mom accompanied me, and like was it local anesthesia? Yeah, it was. And I remember she was there, and like they inserted all kinds of stuff inside me, and yeah, it's like a surgery almost, you know.
It is a surgery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surgery.
And so yeah, I froze my eggs at 24, and if I'm not mistaken, there were, I think I have like between 4 or 10. I think like they got 10 out and 4 were like fertile. And then yeah, they're still there, frozen. And by the way, in Quebec, it's free.
Huh.
Yeah, but I'm saying in Ontario, which is like, you know, not too far away from Quebec, it's not.
Wow.
And they have to pay like, and so I was really grateful for that, which is why, and again, it's like, how is that not offered to me when it's like free?
That honestly, like, I know we pretty much know each other's story like front and back, but that's why I had to stop you, because I was like, wait a minute, even as a stage 2 breast cancer patient, they didn't offer that to you. I can almost kind of understand why they didn't offer it to me.
Yeah,
being diagnosed stage 4, like from
yeah, because you would assume like, oh, okay, stage 4, they're like must save your life, or like, or even in the opposite, they're like, what? Oh, I guess she has stage 4, so she's not thinking about having a family, you know? But no, it was the same.
Wow. So I would like to think that now, and again, yours was 6 years ago when you had that experience. You know, I was diagnosed over 9 years ago, so I would like to think that it's changing.
I hope so.
So I have like a crazy fertility story.
Go for it.
So as you know, no one told me anything, and when that woman handed me the story the checklist prior to seeing my oncologist, I then asked my oncologist, like, hey, what's up with this like fertility thing? Like, I want to have babies one day. And so she was like, well, in order to go through the fertility procedures, you have to be off of treatment for 3 months, you know, to give your body.
Oh, I know this story.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's crazy.
Turn up the volume, guys.
So you had to be off of treatment for 3 months in order to cleanse your system to go through the procedures, and going off treatment was nowhere in my future. So kind of like forget about the whole fertility thing. That was out the window. So I was devastated, but you know, I was kind of, you know, coming to a place where I was accepting that I might not be a mother. So as sad as that is to even say that. Yeah. But, you know, I did become more focused on saving my life. So fast forward, if you listen in episode 1, you know my story. You know by now that I was misdiagnosed. So when Dr. Borgen uncovered my misdiagnoses, he then asked me, where do you want to live? Do you want to stay in New York? Because I was in New York at the time. Do you want to go? Where in the world do you want to go? Because, you know, that matters as part of your healing. You have to be where you want to be. And I went home to Los Angeles because I figured I'm in a really shitty place right now. I want to be around everybody that I know. So, you know, moving across country is no easy thing. Like, so I had to pack up all my stuff again and move from New York back to Los Angeles. So he told me, and this was in December. So he said, by April 1st, I need you to have gotten home. And, you know, I know moving across country is no easy thing, but here's a few oncologists that I recommend, other top oncologists in LA. You need to get home, interview these oncologists, find which oncologist you want to use, and be on treatment. Resume treatment no later than April 1st.
Whoa.
So, and I was going off my treatment because I was on the wrong treatment. So here I was for the first time, and I think then it was maybe like 6-7 years, going off of treatment for the first time ever. So, and I didn't think fertility first thing. I think like I was focused on packing up my place, getting back to LA. And then I was like, wait a minute. I'm going to be off treatment for 3 months. Maybe when I get to LA, I can go
freeze my eggs,
check, like look into like what this fertility thing's all about. So this is like how you know God is real and divine intervention. So yeah. I get to LA in March, and I had made only an appointment to consult with a fertility specialist. and my friend Monica came with me. And so I land in LA, and I literally have like 2 weeks to go get some information about fertility, find an oncologist, and start treatment. So I land. The next day I go, and I solely was going to get information because I had no idea, like, what is egg preservation? What does it mean to freeze your eggs? And so I go, I meet with this doctor. Monica's there with her notebook taking notes for me, and I had to go through my entire diagnosis, and he looked at me like I had like 3 heads. Like,
like, what are you doing?
Like, what are you even
What's
here for? Yeah. Exactly. So he kind of gave me that look, and he's like, well, first and foremost, before anything, we'd have to run some tests to see if you're even fertile after all of the things that you've been on.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, so let's do it. Like, I have 2 weeks. Let's do it. Like, what test do I have to take? And he said, well, the second piece of information is, in order to take this test, you have to have a period and be on day 2 of your period.
Oh my God.
Okay. TMI, but this is Thriver Talks. This was the first and only period I have had in 9 years. I had just gotten my period, and I was on day 2 of my period sitting in this doctor's office. So I look at him. I swear, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't make it up, guys.
So I tell him, I was like, wait a minute. I just started my period yesterday. It's the first period I've had in God knows.
Like, well, not 9 years. At that point, it was
years.
Forever. Yeah.
And today's day 2 of my period. So...
If that's not a miracle,
it's so
I don't know what
crazy.
Is. That's insane.
So I look at Monica, and so he's like, okay, well, go across the hall, and, he sent me with the nurse to start testing. So I went to get information to, like, hey, this could be, like, the wheels are turning. Long story short, I get the test. I am fertile, which was a blessing.
Wow.
Despite all the things I had been on. And I went straight from that day. I went home with shots. I had to do the injections in my tummy.
Yep.
So I basically was, I forget the name of the drug, but I was giving myself shots. And within a week, I had to go get the procedure done. It's like a minor surgery. If anyone's wondering, it's like local anesthesia. They go in and retrieve the eggs. So I think it's really crazy to note that I went for the surgery on a Thursday. Again, I couldn't do the crazy thing where you can get like 20-something eggs.
Yeah, exactly. We were both on that time limit.
But I got 3 fertile eggs, and I recovered from the procedure Thursday, Friday. I had found my oncologist, and I went to get Lupron injections a few days later. So I literally went from like eggs, fertile to Monday morning,
menopausal,
back to menopause. So literally in this short little window frame, I froze my eggs, and I have my eggs frozen.
Insane.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, how can you not believe in God when something like that happens? That's way too big of a coincidence. Like,
and I wanted it so badly. I wanted it so badly. Yeah. So another thing that this is not free in the States. Maybe it is now. I think insurance is trying to figure out, or they're trying to see if insurance would cover it for cancer patients. But I had to take a loan out, and it was like 10 grand. Yeah. Maybe more. So yeah, I mean, all to say that I kind of had to figure all this out on my own.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, I know it's a common question we get, like people who want to have families.
Aside from that, is there anything else you did to protect your fertility? Because I know in my case, I was taking, during my chemotherapy treatments, I was on Lupron injections because the theory is, and I'm probably going to mess this up because again, it's been so long, but I believe if your eggs are being like suppressed, so if you're not like going through the cycle and your eggs are not exposed, when you have
I have heard of Lupron being like a fertility
for prevention, right? Exactly. So if you are menopausal, then your eggs are not like coming out monthly. I'm terrible at this. And so the chemotherapy has less of a chance to affect your fertility.
So it kind of like protects.
Exactly. So I was, on top of doing chemotherapy, I was doing Lupron to protect my fertility. Were you doing anything else?
No, because I had just gone off all treatments.
And
It
then
was
you
like,
were pretty
stop
much
everything.
on menopausal hormonal
Oh yeah,
drugs
I was
in
on
the end, which
Lupron and tamoxifen cut. I had my like 3 months
Mhm.
clean,
Mhm.
and then I went back on Lupron. But for that short amount of time, I had nothing. But yes, prior to that, I was on hormone blockers, and then I resumed right after the fertility.
Right.
So,
By the way, in parentheses, for those who are just tuning in and are interested in fertility, both Steph and I are ER/PR positive, HER2 negative when it comes to our breast cancer diagnosis.
yes.
So you say like your dream was to be a mom and you wanted it so badly enough that God gave you that specific day, that one and only day that you could retrieve these eggs. What are your plans for these eggs? And what are your plans for these eggs that are currently frozen? And are your ambitions to be a mother the same?
Good question. Loaded question. Things have definitely changed this decade, because once upon a time I would have probably cried if you asked me that question. And now, hey, I will surrender to God's plan. Whatever is God's plan is my plan. But I don't even want to like use my eggs. Does that sound terrible?
No, it's not, because this has been a long 9-year journey for you, and you've grown and evolved, and I think this is relatable to everyone. We change, our dreams and goals change too. But also, you were 31 then, and now you are turning the big 40 right around the corner.
Yeah.
So
I think, you know what it is? I think a child's a blessing, and it's probably one of the greatest gifts in life. And I'm not saying that I don't want a child. I didn't know that this journey would last so long.
Right.
And I've been on so many different treatments and drugs and surgeries and hospitalizations. I'm just tired. And I can't really, at this point, maybe everything, we're always ever changing, right? But at this point in my life, I really can't see myself like wanting to have a brand new infant and taking on that responsibility. And I think
your body's been through so much.
My body's
too.
been just through so much. And I think too, I wish I had thought of it prior to recording, but there's a Super Soul Sunday episode that Oprah had, and it was all about how like in society we're always have these like, you know, when are you getting married? Then it's like, so when's the baby coming?
Yeah.
And Oprah had said something like, it's okay not to be a mom.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, you can be a mom. There's moms. There's aunties. And then there's
dog mommies.
Yeah.
We're both dog mommies.
Yeah. I love my dog like a child. But also, in my new relationship, I have a stepson. And I think I needed him as much as he needed me.
Yep.
And I am a mother, but it's just not on the cookie cutter terms that we're told in society. Like, this is the only way to be a mother.
Yeah.
And I'm so content with that.
Yeah.
And
I think there are many ways, like you said, like Oprah said, there's many ways to be a mother. And even like, I'm just saying, if worst case scenario, and it's not even the worst case, it's just another option. But for me, you know, for me who still wants to eventually have my own children in the near future, hopefully, I think one person that I look up to is Stephanie Madsen.
Yeah, I was just thinking of her.
Stephanie Madsen is a 5-time cancer thriver.
On Instagram, she's derailing my diagnosis.
And she just recently adopted Breck, right?
Yeah, he's
so
freaking cute. And their family is just so cute.
Oh my God, I'm so happy for her. And she was so courageous enough to share that adoption process, and she prayed for him. And you know, adopting is a whole journey on its own. Yeah. It's a long, tedious process, and rightfully so, because you want to make sure you get the right parents. And now she has her baby boy. I think he recently turned 1, and like she's so happy, and that just really inspired me, because like, you know, there's so many kids out there who need families, and you've all seen my family, and like we're a big loving group of people, and like we definitely have room to welcome more, and why not, you know? So that's always an option. But for me and my story, I guess, you know, I'm now 31, so I'm in the position you were in, and so now it's kicking in, especially because as we're speaking, my girl, like my best friend that I've known since I was 7 years old, is dilating. A little TMI, she's at like 3 centimeters. It's coming soon, guys. I gotta leave this and go back to Montreal soon to see her baby boy about to be born. But that's also my entire like social media wall. Everyone's getting engaged, everyone's getting married, and everyone's popping babies, and then here we are trying to like save our ass.com. And it's like, okay,
it's so true.
And ideally, you know, when you think, oh, if this never happened, maybe that's like where I'd be too. Maybe I'd be like having babies right now, maybe not. And it's like big. It's like all the thoughts that happen in your mind when you're like sleeping, and it keeps you up at night. And it's something that it's starting to make me like think. And obviously being on the treatments that I'm on, it's not something that I can do right now. But I, Nalie Augustin, personally believe that I can still have children.
I believe too.
Someday.
I believe with you.
And I know that V2, he also has a dream of being a father, and it's my dream to be able to give that to him. And I would love for us to, you know, have a kid that like looks like us and as well. But nevertheless, no matter what, like I feel like we're still gonna start a family. Yeah. And in whatever way. We have our little family with Neo too. Yeah. I like to think that Neo looks like me.
And really quickly, just to give people hope, and that, you know, like your dream is very feasible and possible. Yes. Didn't your oncologist tell you about somebody with MBC?
Oh, yeah. Well, basically that's it. When I was switching hospitals and I was looking to have a fresh new start with a new oncologist, amongst the many stories he told me to give me hope, one of them was about a woman who was around my age who came to him saying that her previous oncologist also gave her like 6 months left to live. I think it had spread outside of the lungs. It was just like everywhere. And he put her on a treatment plan, and she was doing so well on it that her dream was to be a mother someday. And so she asked him if it was safe to use her eggs, but use them with a surrogate. And she had asked her sister to be her surrogate. And so her sister accepted. And so she asked her doctor's approval, my oncologist, and he was like, yeah, do it. And apparently like the whole department was like, what are you doing? Like, you can't just approve a woman with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer to have kids. It's not right. Like, the kids are going to grow up without a mother, blah, 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 blah. But like, he then responded, who am I to tell someone if they should have kids or not? Right. So he supported her decision. He guided her along the way. And then he was like, fast forward to today, her twins are now 5 years old.
And now it's like a year ago. So
so they're like 6, celebrating their 6th birthday. So she has twins, and apparently she's thriving. And then he had so many other stories too, and that just gave me so much hope. And that's another option. And like, I don't like to, our little doggy friend is here. Hi, doggy. There's the dog's neighbor that comes to visit us. Anyways, back to my point. As I was saying, what was I saying?
That there's so many options that you can have as surrogates.
Exactly. And we can only really speak about our experiences. Exactly. But yeah, there are how do you call that? Surrogacy? I can never pronounce it. Surrogacy and adoption and being an auntie and not having kids at all. And stepmom. Steph is a stepmom now.
So all to say that, well, I want to say to you that when I was your age, I felt the exact same thing. Yeah. And I'm not telling you this to say, oh, you're not going to have a baby like me, because wasn't in a relationship to to even explore those
yeah
options.
Now
at
I'm
the
with
time.
V. We've been together for 6 years now.
But I got that when I was your age, or right when I was diagnosed with cancer. I was happy for everybody, but inside I was like, a piece of me was dying when I saw like everyone's getting married and now they're having their second baby and baby number 3, and I'm over here just like in treatment trying to stay alive. So I do know what that felt like. So I just wanted to say to you that I know what it's like to be your age right now and having all of these thoughts, because I just remember watching, all of my friends around me get married, have baby number 1, 2, 3, and I was just trying to stay alive. And it's like, it's a little unsettling and it's kind of a sadness, but I think so many blessings to count. You
Absolutely.
have some people are still looking for love, and you have V, who's amazing,
and an amazing family.
Yes.
Like at the end of the day, I the dream is to start a family, but like I have a huge one, and I'm it's about counting your blessings and being grateful for what you already have versus what you don't. And another thing that I have been reflecting on is like, really though, Nalie, like at 31, being in the positions that we are in, minus, I'm not talking about the cancer position, I'm talking about like our career.
Yes.
Even V's career as well, as the entrepreneur he is, we often question like, would we really be ready right now to have kids? And I think the answer, truthfully, is no. And so like, and even like a lot of our close friends who are in their 30s, 34, 35 even, they've recently gotten married and like they're traveling and they just bought their first house. And like, I think lately people are having kids.
I was just going to say that.
A lot later.
I think I know you have a big purpose, and right now is about fulfilling that purpose.
Thank you.
And I was just going to say, if it's any comfort to you or anyone listening, like I'm about to be 40 in less than 2 weeks, and a lot of my friends are having babies in their 40s. So I think once upon a time, you got married and 20 years old and you popped the babies out, but things are changing. So wherever you are at on your journey, just don't lose hope. Like,
don't lose hope.
There's so many different options. There's so many different ways. Like, you can follow Stephanie on Instagram. She's has a beautiful family. I have a beautiful family. It's not the way I envisioned it once upon a time, and I'm sure Stephanie didn't envision that as a young woman.
But
anything's possible, and
sometimes it's even better.
Yeah, and I think
beautiful.
Exactly, God's plan is always better than ours.
I think that's the my rule. It's whatever. It's God's plan, God's will, whatever. Like you said it. Like I genuinely believe I'm finally on this path where I'm fulfilling my purpose and I'm in it, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
But on another note, our Chinese herbalist, Dr. Wong, was like,
God.
"What did he say?"
I totally forgot about that. So I had an appointment with him like 2 weeks ago, and I just got really great news. And, I've been on this journey for a very long time, and Dr. Wong's been a very big part of this journey. So he's just like mind blown that we've gotten to this point.
Yeah.
So he's like, next, we're having a baby. And I was like, oh, no, we're not. We are not having a baby.
She's like, no.
Because he actually, with his herbs, my friend, just a little... so in addition to cancer, he services like women just for like women's health overall.
Acupuncture also does that too. It's very helpful for anyone who's trying to
get pregnant. Yeah. And my friend, she had several miscarriages. She actually had frozen her eggs. Yes. She was going through eggs, very expensive. And she had one girl egg left. And I told her, don't go to your appointment. I'm taking you to Dr. Wong. Long story short, she had her baby girl.
Yeah.
A Dr.
Miracle
Wong's
worker.
So his next goal, he's like, okay, I showed them that I can, my herbs work. Now we're going to get you pregnant. And I was like, no, we're not. And he's so adamant. I was like, how about I'll have the baby and you can have the baby. Just kidding.
Or he can totally give me his herbs.
Yes. Now he can be the guinea pig.
I'm like, send him to me in that case.
Yes.
So I'll just say there are so many options. There is hope and
be advocate. You have to advocate.
Yes.
Especially with this. Like if you're newly diagnosed, go in there and ask your oncologist.
Yeah, I hope you're listening to this right before. Like I hope that this podcast can be my Anwar, like my friend who did her research and then reached out to me to let me know and warned me at the perfect moment. That too was quite the miracle, because like had she told me the next day, I would have had started chemotherapy. I remember it was like right before going.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy.
Divine intervention.
Divine intervention. And we hope that this episode is your divine intervention. Amen. And that if you are just listening and then maybe you know a friend who's about to start treatment or who is just newly diagnosed, do send this to them, because we hope that maybe if they want to have a family, if they want to freeze their eggs, then it can be an option for them, because like we said back then, they didn't warn us.
Yeah, no, there was no information. So hopefully this is the information that you need, or someone that you love needs, and that you pass it on. And one day you have a beautiful family, whatever that looks like.
Yes. And the day you do share some pictures with us.
Please.
Did you know someone named their kid Nalie after me?
No.
I know. I hope she's listening right now.
Wow.
I know. I have a little Nalie somewhere out there.
Wow.
A little miracle baby.
What an honor, huh?
Yes, truly. All right.
So if you like this episode, please rate us or review us below. Go to our website, which is www.thethriversguide.com. Subscribe to our newsletter so you can get all the latest podcast updates. And more importantly, share this episode with somebody, like we just said. I mean, somebody out there's got to benefit from this message. And we're available on all major podcast platforms.
Don't forget, where there's a thriver's will, there's a thriver's way. Talk to you in the next one.